Hello everyone, today we're going to discuss about a variable called static. So you might wonder, why do I need to learn this? Why the hell should I know this? My life is calm and all this time, why should I suddenly know about it? So basically the main use case of static is for memory management. The static allows or helps us to reduce the memory usage in the system. So there are mainly four use cases of static. One is static variable, a static method, a static block, and a nested class. I just wanted to mention you guys that classes can never be static. Only the inner classes or the nested classes which you see, they can be static. You might wonder, the first use case is we write it from the start, static. So let's get in order. So first thing is the class variable. So when we create a static variable, what happens is it's getting shared by an entire class. So entire class will have the same variable that will be shared. For the time being, let's create a variable called name and the count. So for suppose whenever an object is getting created, I want to implement and increase the count of it so that I can know how many objects are getting created. So first thing is I have a car class. For the time being, I'm just using only two. One is name and the second thing is count. So let's add a constructor to it. Now I'm going to increment the value whenever an object is created. I'm going to increment it and I'm going to print it. So now let's initialize the value with 0. Since it's not static, what happens is the initial value will be 0 and it's going to be plus plus, so it's going to change into 1. But if I create a second value, car2 or something like that, it's still going to be 1 because it's not shared. For every object of car, a new count is being declared. So it's not getting shared. So let's go with an example. So let's just take Tesla. So let's give the car to, let's give it a different name. What about pens? So what, since we have already printed it, so when we have given the print statement in the constructor itself, so it's going to print whenever it's executed. As you can see, as I have mentioned earlier, it's going to be 1 and 1. Since the count is not being shared by everything, so whenever a new constructor or an object is getting created, the count value initially is 0 and it's incremented. So a different count. So each of them have a different count. So what if we make it static? So here what happens is the count value will be shared by each and every object and it's gonna be incrementing from 0 to 1 and again 1 to 2, since only one static object is getting created and it's going to be shared by an entire class. So as you can see, initial value was 0 and it's incremented when the first object is created, so 0 to 1, and again it's incremented when the second object is created, so it's 0 to 2. So this is the static variable. This is the first use case. Now let's go into the method. As you can see, we use static method from the start, static void main. So the main use case is obviously saving memory. So if we use a static method, we need not to create an object for it. So whenever JVM calls this method, it doesn't require to create an object because it's static. So there are mainly two different kinds of method. One is static and instance. Of course, there is another method called an abstract method, which we're gonna go earlier. So for the time being, let's stay with static and instance method. So for suppose, let's have a display. A display method, what it does is it's gonna tell you what percentage of tax you're getting saved, or how many types of models are available in the market, or something, whatever you want. So for the timing, let's say I want to display hello user. So what happens is, if I need to call this one, I need to create a car object, and then I need to call this method with the reference of it. So as you can see, c1 dot display, but it's just displaying, right? So I need not to create an object all the time, because it has nothing to do with the Tesla or the count. But the object is being created, then only I can call it. So the memory allocation is getting taken place, and we have a lots of wastage. What if I make it static? So when I make it static, as you can see, I can directly call it with the reference of the class. Since the class name is car, I'm just calling it with the help of it. As you can see, I just called it with the reference of the car. So even though if I remove these two lines, it still works. So as you can see, car1 and car2, no objects are getting created, so no wastage of memory. So this is the second use case. And as I mentioned earlier, the static keyword has been used from the start, from the time where we are printing hello world. So now next there is a block called static block. So this block is executed before the main method. So as you can see, this is a static block, and then first of all it's going to print CSI for the time being. So what happens is, the main method won't be executed first. Static block will be executed first, and then the main method will be executed. So according to that, first CSI will be printed, and then hello user will be printed from this method. So as you can see, so the static method has been executed first. So this is called a static block, where you code whatever you want here. So this is a static block. Now next is nested classes. As I mentioned earlier, a class can never be static, only a nested class can be. So let's assume there is a class called A. It has a variable int A is equal to 43. Okay, 53. Now let's assume a class B, which is a second class, which is obviously another class, and it's not static at all. Let's assume its value is 61. So what if I want to access this variable called B? So in that situation, I need to create an object of both. So as you can see, A So I created an object of A1. That's a wastage of memory, since I only need the value of B here. I need not know the value of A. I don't know, whatever it might be, I don't even care. So in that situation, if we create it as static, so what happens is, we can directly erase it. That's all, just a slight change, and it still works pretty fine. So as you can see, the value or the object of A class is not being created. So that's the place where the memory is getting saved. So these are the four use cases of the static block, or the static method, and the static class. So here we use the static keywords in these four situations. So hope you guys understood. Thank you.